Hello and welcome. We're in the home stretch here for our funky round one of the playoffs shenanigans. Way back when we started this, Rich Shay got swept by Eric Froelich. And he was just, maybe he was probably going to be fourth. Way back at the end of last week, Paul Rietzl was on a roll. He was up 2-1 against Eric Froelich. He did manage to finish that series off against Eric, but Rich is one match away from sweeping Paul. That would actually drop Paul all the way to fourth place. Rich would be in third. Eric would be through to the finals. That's what happens if they all go 1-1. So if they do the circle of death, if everybody gets one win and one loss, we already know Eric will win our match win percentage tiebreaker because he got a sweep, and then he won two matches in the match that he lost to Paul.
So does Paul just have to win one match to break that all up?
If Paul wins one match, he gets third. If he has to win. If he wins two matches, he's still third. 3 matches gets him all the way into the finals against Shay to play for first and second. So yeah, Rich is still live. If Rich wins this match, he pips Paul for third place. Let's get down to the action. Hello and welcome. It is the time we've all waited for. Spirits!
Yeah!
Spell Queller, turn 1 off of Black Lotus.
Lord, what a broken opening.
Sort of. You can't even play the Aether Vial and leave up Spell Queller, but we'll ignore that part. Spirits!
Paul has turn 1 Stoneforge Mystic and Wasteland.
Yeah, that's probably, he's got options.
And I think he's on the play.
Yeah. Yeah, the way we set it up, if you lose a match, you do get choice of play draw for the next match. So Paul is definitely on the play here. He's, run out the Stoneforge. That makes sense. Stoneforge, Aether Vial, and then just leave up a Wasteland, I guess?
Yeah. He could play he might just want to play the Flooded Strand to prevent Rich from Wastelanding him. And then next turn,
maybe.
He has the choice of deciding whether to activate or...
He can also hardcast the Jitte.
Okay, well that works too.
Yeah, I like it. Hardcast the Jitte. Yeah. That's totally the right answer. You always think they're going to get an artifact an equipment that's coming out through the Stoneforge Mystic, but
yeah, the big one. But he decided to go for the 2-mana one. Makes total sense.
All right, what is Rich going to do? He's got a Revoker, so
hand. Yeah, he kept the hand with Eldrazi Temple as his only land.
He had a Mox.
Yeah.
Interesting. So
if he had a Thought-Knot Seer, he could play it, but he can't. So he has the choice here of Chalice, Ravager, Revoker, or Tanglewire. So he could play any of them.
I feel like you need to Revoker Jitte before it gets attached to a creature.
I think you've got to do that immediately. Otherwise, you're facing down. You're in the Jitte pit.
Right. Like your Revoker. Okay, he's going to Chalice for 0. So he couldn't. Oh, he can Tanglewire. Will also prevent Jitte from getting equipped, and barring... No, there's nothing. The Black Lotus is already in the graveyard.
Yeah, the problem with that line is that it really exposed you to Wasteland here.
True story.
And this Aether Vial is going to come down at any point and start evading all this nonsense.
Tanglewire for 3 is going to leave Rich with 1 mana.
He needs a Mishra's Workshop.
Oh, how about an Ancient Tomb?
That'll do. We've seen spirits blow. We've seen spirits blow out Oath, but we haven't seen spirits take on the shop stack.
Now he gets to Revoker Jitte. Paul's still losing all his permanents. He's going to have to settle for the Maelstrom Wanderer, of course, or a Vial.
Or Vial.
Goes for the Vial.
Rich is going to tap down the Tanglewire and the Chalice of the Void by stacking it, giving himself maximal mana. Well, Black Lotus. Now he can play anything. No, the Black Lotus can't be played through the Chalice. He's locked himself out from playing Black Lotus. But he can still play either Tanglewire or Ravager here.
Oh, that was a midnight play. Rich is on the East Coast, 12:11 tomorrow morning for him. Maybe does he have Del spells in this deck? No, that was the last deck. File starts ticking up. Oh, Kataki! Main deck, Kataki. Is that good against shops, Stephen Endian?
I think Rich might scoop here.
Wow.
So the big difference between Kataki and Flux, of course, is that with only one upkeep mana, it's not quite as painful. One upkeep cost. So he has to think about how he wants to distribute all this, if anywhere. I mean, he could just try and load these up onto the Ravager and just keep the Ravager.
The fact that Rich has an Arcbound Ravager helps him a lot because those artifacts aren't going away for no value. He can eat them all and then dump the counters on whatever thing he's decided to keep around. Maybe he keeps the Ravager. Maybe he probably keeps Revoker, right? Don't you just make a giant Revoker here and commit to paying for it with Ancient Tomb?
See, that's the thing is you can do both with Ravager. You could load up everything onto the Ravager and then bump the Ravager's power onto the Revoker.
Yeah, yeah.
It looks like I suspect that's what he's going to do, although we'll soon find out. Magic the Gathering is a lovely way of showing you all the upkeep triggers at once. So right now,
go ahead.
I was going to say right now he can pay. So he could pay to keep around 3 mana, I think. No, 2 mana. So he can give himself an out to draw 1 mana for Tanglewire. Not that that would do much but buy a single turn. But I think that's an option for him here, right?
Yeah, but if he's going to lose the Ravager, I think he probably just eats everything. Like, Ancient Tomb can obviously upkeep both a big Revoker and a Mox. So yeah, maybe you keep a Mox around. That's...
Yeah, you have to decide kind of to go all in. I've been in this position, right? I think I went all in against Rich Shay in one of our matches, and I wish I had just had 1 more mana when I was top decking Thought-Knot Seer. So he does need to decide whether to go all in here or try and give himself live draws.
Mm-hmm. I mean, lands are still good draws. They can turn things on. Yeah, the real question is, do you make a 4/4 Ravager and then plop the counters on top of Revoker, or a 5/5? You're going to have 2 mana, not just this upkeep, but future upkeeps, because he's got to be tapping Ancient Tomb to keep the Revoker around.
Right.
He can also, in theory, keep the Ravager and the Revoker around this turn. I mean, he could even tap the Moxes to pay for the Ravager and the Revoker, leave Ancient Tomb untapped. Or he can keep a lot of stuff around. Chalice he's eaten. Everything else is still here.
Munch, munch, munch. I bet Rich wishes he still had that Black Lotus now.
Now that he's eaten his Chalice, for sure.
Yeah, Rich is just being very deliberate about how he pays for all this. You do have some liberties in terms of stacking the Tanglewire, but there were a lot of upkeep triggers. I'm not sure if Rich could have done a different stack here.
No, he's fine. He stacked it all right.
But the thing is that you want the Tanglewire, that piece to be the last one. So
that's what he did.
Yep. And he's drawn another Ravager. So he decided not to figure out that. Make that decision right now.
Wow.
Because
so he attacks with the Revoker that's turning off the Jitte. Here comes Flying Man swooping down out of the Aether Vial. That's a snap block for Paul Rietzl. He just got his Jitte back. I do not think he expected to have access to Umezawa's Jitte again in this game.
No, and now Rich, I think, is compelled to move the things over there. He can't let that thing go, right?
I would not want to, right? Yeah, I see your point. Yeah. He can just have the Revoker eat itself, win this combat. And Paul only has to tangle 1, so he can tangle... What can he do? He actually has to draw land to equip Jitte. because he has to upkeep the Jitte as well, right? It's going to cost him 1, and he's
Oh,
only got 2 mana.
good point. Good point. He also has to upkeep the Aether Vial, which he's not going to do.
No,
So
you let the Aether Vial go.
yeah, so he's going to tap a mana to upkeep the Jitte. He'll probably tap down the Stoneforge.
Right. And then he taps Stoneforge, upkeep the Jitte, hope to draw a land. Although, I don't know. I mean, if Rich makes the Revoker Giant, then you can let the Jitte go. Just depends how Rich is going to play this. And Rich can see all this, of course. He's like, well, Jitte's really good. Jitte also has an upkeep right now. How much is my Tanglewire? Tricky spot. Yeah. It's been a surprisingly intricate game.
And a lot, as you said, depends on what Paul draws here. So,
and how Rich plays this combat, right? Rich has to decide which game he wants to play. The game where Paul's hoping to top deck land so he can equip his Jitte, or the game where he's essentially all in on a Revoker. And the thing is, if he's going all in on the Revoker, well, he probably eats the Ruby and the Tanglewire. He at least eats the Tanglewire. I guess he can plan to use Ancient Tomb for Ruby plus Revoker. That's not bad. But yeah, he's eating that Tanglewire.
It looks like he's going to keep the. Indeed, he does keep the Mox. That gives him more options. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah, and 6/5 should be bigger than anything Paul can produce. All right.
But
6/5 Revoker beats the hell out of a Mausoleum Wanderer.
But if Paul draws, as we said, if Paul draws a land here.
No, the Jitte, the Revoker's still in play, so Paul will just let the Jitte go now. It's still being named by Revoker.
Right.
I think Paul just lets both his artifacts go and sees what the top of his deck has in store.
Now he's ramped it to 2, so he decides to keep the Aether Vial, and it looks like he's going to keep both. See what he draws. Oh, and that worked out pretty nicely, since he can now Aether Vial into play Stoneforge Mystic. Paul probably just figured that most of his creatures are 2 mana, so he's either going to draw a land or he's going to draw a 2 mana creature.
He's holding it. He's also holding a 3 mana creature.
Right.
What a bizarre sequence. Now, are you chump blocking with the Stoneforge, or are you taking 6? Take 6.
Yeah, I think he's going to take it.
And then surprise.
Yep. Interesting that saving that 1 Mox has worked out really well for Rich here, because Rich was able to use use the Ancient Tomb to keep the Mox and the Ravager, and then he was able to drew a Mox to be able to play his second Ravager. So he will be able to consolidate the Ravagers in just a moment.
All right. Paul stacks it where first he can take Aether Vial up to 3. Then he can actually use it to put Spell Queller into play. Or just pay the mana to upkeep it, turn off the ability to put Batterskull onto the table, but draw a 3-drop.
Which 3-drop is that? I can't quite
Geist of Saint Traft. 2/2, hexproof, and when it attacks, you get a 4/4 angel token until end of turn.
Oh, God.
Wow. So he kept the Aether Vial at the cost of not getting to Batterskull. He could have actually dropped Spell Queller just as a random 2/3 Flying Dork.
Certainly.
But he clearly values the exile ability on the Queller.
I think we're probably
can't really attack into Ravager.
No.
Cool game.
Definitely. I'm just trying to think ahead and see at what point will Rich decide, will Paul be able to decide to make attacks? It'll, of course, depend partly on what Rich does, but it looks like Rich is going to
keep everything.
Yeah. But is he going to try and attack or just keep everything on defense?
You attack with your 6/5, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's not getting ahead by sitting there. He's tapping Ancient Tomb every turn. He has to apply pressure.
And by attacking, you also give yourself. I mean, you can always at any point, you have priority, move all
It's a
that
2-turn
power.
clock. Yeah, it's a 2-turn
Yeah,
clock.
you can also move the power onto the other one if you want. So
I think you attack with Revoker, leave Ravager on defense. He doesn't know what's under the Aether Vial, obviously. Paul ticked it up to 3, probably signals a 3-drop. Whatever. Rich doesn't turn a profit by sitting here. I think he has to attack with the Revoker. Attacking with the Ravager in
well, he's
addition
going in
is
with both. He's
less
going
clear
in.
to me. Is he dead? I think he just
Well,
killed himself. 2, 3, 4. Geist of St. Traft is 6
well,
damage.
well. He
Rich is
doesn't
dead.
know. He doesn't know that Paul has the Geist though.
Well, obviously.
Yeah.
Paul's doing the math. He's like, all right, he
Yeah.
only got 2 boxes to eat. 6 and 3 is 9. I can take it, drop to 2, Aether
Spirits.
Vial out, Geist of St. Traft, and kill him.
Yeah,
Wow.
that Rich definitely did not see that coming. I mean, he knew that there was going to be a batter skull on the board at some point, but but this Geist just changes the math entirely, right?
And Paul still does 9 this way. He can actually chump the 6-5, which I don't think he needs to, but Rich hasn't played a land. Hypothetically, Paul can probably create a relevant hand for Rich. More realistically, Paul doesn't want to figure out what the relevant hand for Rich is, so whatever. This is
Yeah.
still 9. This is 9 damage. I chump
Unbelievable.
Geist of St. Traft off Aether Vial, because that's what you do in Vintage.
Exactly 9.
Tap your Aether Vial, you put a free Geist of St. Traft into play, you attack and kill your opponent, just the way we drew it up. Spirit deck. Chris McCoolidge shows up to watch. Love it. 2, 4, 5. Yeah, that's 9. Woo!
One of the most interesting there have been a lot of interesting matches tonight. One of the really interesting subplots was the game theory decision making about what to play against Eric, right? When
You mean why didn't Paul just play Spirits? Is this deck
it's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I
I wanted to, yeah.
but it worked out okay for him with Delver. So
He got the job done.
It was super interesting. I mean, I honestly thought that Paul was going to come in with Spirits and then Eric was going to come on with Mentor, and neither player made that decision. And
Trade Wind Riders in the deck.
Here we go. Oh God.
Trade Wind Rider is in the deck.
Wow, Geist really made quite an appearance. I mean, we hadn't seen that one at all, and boy, that's a card that did quite a bit of damage.
It's a 1-of too.
Is it really?
Pretty sure. Wow. So Paul is sitting with 21 cards in his sideboard trying to figure out what's actually good in this matchup. I mean, the Spirit deck's fun, but all signs point to Paul not feeling awesome about it.
Yeah, I mean, he can choose between 3 power creature, a flash creature, a 1-drop. Yeah.
Yeah, Mother of Runes doesn't do anything. Ability doesn't do anything. Spirit of the Labyrinth's ability doesn't do anything.
But
Eidolon of Rhetoric's ability doesn't do anything. Containment Priest still has Flash, but its primary ability doesn't do anything. Yeah, his cards are just dorks in this matchup, aren't they?
Yeah, he has to make decisions between curving out, power, resilience, vulnerability. Like, does he want a creature that's going to die when it faces a Revoker? And if so, does he want it to be a 1-mana creature or a 2-mana creature?
I think you want Flying Man. I think Flying and 1 mana are just better than those other abilities, and Paul seems to agree.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty useful against Tanglewire shenanigans. Although the flash creatures also have that advantage. You can dump them out onto the board, and with Aether Vial or whatever. If you don't have the mana, or with the Tanglewire on the stack. Go Flying Man. Let's see. Oh God. Well,
Go Kataki is what's really going on.
Exactly. Paul's opening hand not only has Kataki, but he's also got a Plow.
A basic land that he gets to lead with. Rich has turn 1 Trinisphere.
Well, there's that.
Wow, Rich can play an Arcbound Ravager and a turn 1 Trinisphere. That doesn't seem fair.
That's ridiculous.
Pretty ridiculous.
Workshop showing their broken capacity here, broken start. And, unfortunately for Paul, even though it does have a basic, the rest of his hand is just, oh God. So all the restricted cards, all the workshop restricted spheres, this game will be short.
Well, the Lodestone doesn't actually stack with Trinisphere, so Paul's life didn't get more difficult from the ability, but it's a 5/3.
It's a lot bigger than that. I have a feeling Rich is just going to load this up, right? He's going to put all the Moxen and the Ravager on the Lodestone and give him a 2-turn clock. Right? Yeah. He's going to attack with the 3/3, probably move it to the Lodestone next turn. That means there's only 2 more turns left in this game.
Well, I mean, you don't turn a profit by moving it. You may as well just hit him for 8 and 8. 8 and then 9.
True. Now these.
Although, if he sacks the Trinisphere, he opens up flop.
I didn't consider this, but Paul's just thrown a little bit of a wrench into it.
Flagstones of Trocaire?
Yeah, exactly.
Flagstones of Trocaire matters.
You can't wasteland that and get. So folks who yeah, here we go. Our producers.
What just happened?
If he wastelands the Flagstone, Paul gets a Plains into play tap. But of course, Rich has timed this correctly. So he's done it on his upkeep. So he'll get a tap Plains. He'll have another land. He won't have an opportunity to play a spell through the Trinisphere this turn.
Right, but Rich he gets another turn unless Rich draws a cheap artifact.
Or unless Rich can win right now, which I think he has enough.
He drew an artifact. If Rich had, in order to win, Rich had to eat the Trinisphere, which would mean Paul could plow. But because Rich drew an artifact that costs 3 or less mana, he just is able to eat, is able to deal 9, does not have to take Trinisphere off the board. What a crazy game.
So that was
so close.
That was an amazing game. And Flagstone of Trocaire, anti-Trinisphere technology.
Well, anti-wasteland technology. Paul's land base is quite a work of art. Just the angles that he's thinking about are really impressive to me. Like he basically put all these lands in his deck. He's like, well, this one's hard to waste. This one, Flagstones of Trocaire, also does not turn on their Massacre. Like he's just coming at this format from these clever angles. It almost there too. Rich had to play that, right?
One of the things that we were kind of wondering about was whether he has 4 Tundra, and in fact he doesn't. Right? He has 3 Tundra, 4 Seachrome Coast, like you were just saying in the Flagstones, to evade Massacre. In fact, I think at one point you said you thought that was just 99% incorrect until he pointed that out. Right?
I'm down. I'm under 90% now.
Yeah.
I still would put 4 Tundras in my deck. Just like you have fetch lands. Sometimes you have 4 mana cards. Like
this is a really interesting hand, right? On the one hand, Shay has Crucible and mana out the wazoo. On the other hand, Paul kept a double Wasteland hand that relies on being able to get a little bit of tempo. And of course, he does have 2 of the power blue, but he can't play them except with this Lotus Petal. Wow. So he has to make a decision here whether he's going to fire off this Ancestral.
Yes, because with Revoker coming down, it's no longer a decision. Shay will name Lotus Petal with that Revoker, so if he was debating before, the debate's over.
But now Shay has an opportunity to name something like, I don't know, Aether Vial.
Aether Vial would be smart. Whoa, he does. Swinging a hit.
And look at this. Paul would have drawn the Sapphire. Well, he wouldn't have drawn the Sapphire here, but he would have, because he wouldn't have cast the Ancestral. But now he's in a position where he's just going to play
Time Walk.
Yeah, he's got Time Walk. Is that Leon an Arbiter?
No, it's Aegis of the Gods. It's the one that gives hexproof.
Oh no, the one to the far left. It looks like that's Relic Water.
Oh, okay. It's Relic Water, yeah.
That's also pretty good against artifacts.
Yeah, except he's going to leave up Spell Queller with Flash. Spell Queller's Flash ability. He has the ability to flash down a 2/3 and gobble up that Phyrexian Revoker. How hilarious.
Lord knows if Rich sees this or not.
Right? This is not a thing you have to guard against. He did run a Revoker into a surprise Mausoleum Wanderer in a previous game, but at least there was an Aether Vial to signal that one.
That's one of the things that's critical here is that if you're Rich and you've studied Paul's deck, you know he's got a lot of flash creatures, right? I mean,
Yep.
and so you have to decide, make a calculated risk here. The problem, as you point out, is that this particular flash creature doesn't trade. It just survives and comes back, hits back.
Paul might value the counterspell. Paul values the counterspell highly enough that
Yeah,
doesn't want to eat the Revoker. I was wondering about that. He clearly valued the counterspell ability more than the Revoker, which surprises me. I would think.
It turns out well here because Rich does have Dismember, right? So he wouldn't actually get in the position. He wouldn't have been forced to lose his Revoker here. That would have cost him quite a bit of life, but now Paul can play Aether Vial even though he can't use it, or he can play this Relic Warder, and
he can also Wasteland and leave the Queller up against another turn. He can Aether Vial and leave the Queller up another turn.
If he goes the Aether Vial route, you've got to assume he's going to play the Relic Warder. I guess not. Okay, he's just going to hold up the Spell Queller. Continue to do that. And Rich has drawn another Thought-Knot Seer.
Well, he can cast it. You can go Eldrazi Temple, Ancient Tomb. Mishra's Workshop does not cast it, but Mishra's Workshop casts Crucible of Worlds. Okay, goes Temple. Here's Thought-Knot Seer, and here comes Spell Queller. Rich even did this in his first main phase, so the 2/3 can block. Thought-Knot Seer exiled by Spell Queller. Yeah, Rich has to just pass the turn back, can't attack. Aether Vial is ticking up in case that Revoker goes away. Obviously, Paul has the ability to send it away with the Relic Order. Do you play, Wasteland? He goes for the Temple. 2/3 flyer attacks. Is it time to Relic Warder the Ancient Tomb? Is it time to play Kira? Kira, the Great Glass Spinner is here. Legendary creature, which by the way means he can bounce it with that Caracas he's got, should he ever want to. Also means all of Rich's removal gets countered. Well, the first copy of removal spell gets countered, so that Dismember does actual nothing all of a sudden.
It's interesting, if Rich had attacked before playing the Thought-Knot Seer, then, and if Paul had played something, that would have been an opportunity for him to, say, Dismember the Spell Queller. But now Dismember is effectively...
It would have just been 2 points of damage. We saw last turn that Paul valued the counterspell ability of the Queller high enough that he wasn't willing to flash it in just to eat the 2/1.
Well, I think the equation does change when you have Aether Vial actually in play, but I agree with you. He probably would have just
was in his hand.
Sucked up the 2. Right.
I guess that Relic Warder can't eat the Revoker yet because Paul only has single white mana for non-spirits.
That's true. Most of these creatures are spirits, but not all.
Paul loves that Relic Warder. He had that in the Hate Bears deck he used to help qualify as well.
Rich is considering his options. Looks like he's going to go Ravager here.
Well, he can't play the Thought-Knot Seer. Can't play the Dismember for any value, so just play the 2 cards that actually do things.
Now, it is interesting that Strip Mine and Crucible could be a potential long game out here, but that he has to rely on keeping that Aether Vial shut off, right?
Well, Plains turns that off. Now Paul can cast his Relic Warder. He can actually cast the Relic Warder and Vial down the Aegis.
True. Yeah.
Oh, might as well throw Mausoleum Wanderer in. Flying
and then Relic Warder the
well, do you get the Revoke? Maybe he wants the Crucible here.
Yeah, I think he's taking the...
Yeah, he takes the Crucible. I like that.
Now, will Rich respond by sacrificing it? Probably.
Probably should. It's not like he can kill things while Kira's around to defend them.
Exactly. The power is better. Woo. Lodestone Golem. No small no small creature here.
Yeah, but like Paul's creatures fly. And
Go flying,
Rich is
man.
at 8.
Yeah.
Like if Rich taps that Ancient Tomb, Paul can play a spirit to pump up the Mausoleum Wanderer and deal 6. What a bizarre game.
This really has been strange. These spirits, they're different.
Yeah.
They're different.
Relic Water blocks, that makes sense to me. Paul's racing now. He basically needs to block on the ground and then fly over for damage. Wow, he's actually... Wait, if he doesn't block, can't he attack and win? Oh, the Aether Vial's turn not on. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking if Vial was live, he could drop the Aegis.
Well, does Aegis cost 2? Yeah, he could have if he could activate.
And
now he can.
So let me get this right. A spirit off the top is lethal. Spirit off the top turns Flying Man into a 2/2. Ah.
Wow.
Fine. Fly over for 5 and have a blocker. We'll play it your way.
Yeah, Rich just can't do enough damage. He just cannot get there. This was his one turn to be able to draw, I guess, like a trike. Would that have done anything for him? He could have...
Unbelievable.
On the 1. Well, we have more magic.
Spirits! Please keep playing the Spirits deck, Paul. Please keep playing the Spirits deck. It's 2-0. It's undefeated. Why would you not run it back? It's also adorable. And it might even be good. Like, there's clearly elements of it that are actually good.
Oh, no doubt. Right? I mean, we've seen it crush Oath. We've seen it crush Workshops. I think that this deck is really well positioned.
Crush. Both of those matches went to game 3.
I thought that was pretty... I mean, Rich Shay won the game. Yeah, turn 1 Trinisphere and turn 2 Lodestone Golem or something.
Yeah,
like
and he almost opened up a window for Source of Clouds. Yeah, fair.
So here's the question. What are both of these players going to bring to match 4?
That is the question.
Rich's options are Emerstill, Workshops, and what was his second deck again?
He has a Pyro. He has Grixis Pyromancer.
Grixis Pyromancer, right.
And Paul's got a Welder deck which has not functioned well any of the times we've seen it. He's got this deck, and then he's got the Delver deck that he chose to play against Eric.
Yeah, Rich really does like that Pyromancer deck. He's played that a lot in a lot of recent events. He probably has the most recent experience with that.
Yeah.
The question is, does that have a bad matchup in Paul's gauntlet here? His Spirits is such a enigma here.
I've never seen it lose. I don't know. Apparently, it's good against everything.
Hate Bear's, I think, pretty effective against some of these Gush decks, though, right? I mean, Spirit of the Labyrinth is just such a beating.
Spirit of the Labyrinth is insane against Rich's deck. Like, Rich's Landstill deck is also vulnerable to Spirit of the Lab and various other things. Tell you what, let's take a super quick break. We'll run the ads. When we come back, we will have for you the conclusion of the playoff match between Rich and Paul. Stay tuned, guys.